the normal curve and standard deviation. So here is the, the bell curve that is available to you on the reference sheet, and they call this a bell-shaped curve or a normal curve or normal distribution. So normal distribution, it must be said in the problem for it to be used. So when they say normally distributed, they mean the very top of the bell curve right here is the mean, the center of the curve. Standard deviation is basically, it's a measure of how spread out the data is. So a normal curve shows plus or minus 3 standard deviations. Percentile means where the data is placed out of 100%. So if you're right here in the middle, you'd be 50th percentile. Up here, you would be, let's see, 50 plus 34, you would be 84 percentile. So if you're 1 standard deviation above the mean, you'd be 84th percentile. And the percentage rule basically shows that 68% of all the data falls between 1 standard deviation of the mean. That means minus to plus 1. 95% of the data is minus 2 to plus 2 standard deviations above the mean. And 99.7% falls between minus 3 to plus 3 standard deviations above and below the mean. So once again, here's the mean. To the right is the standard deviations above. This symbol means standard deviation. And this is standard deviations below the mean. And these little 0.51, 1.52, this number line here is basically the number of standard deviations above the mean. So here's 1, right, here's 2, here's 3, and here are the half points, and same with the negative side. Number 1, on a standardized test, Phyllis scored 84, exactly 1 standard deviation above the mean. So that we label 84. If the standard deviation for the test is 6, what is the mean score for the test? Well, since we're above, to go back to the mean, we have to subtract 1 standard deviation, which is minus 6. The answer is 78. Number 2. So here we have the mean of the scores is 48, so we go ahead and label that first. And the standard deviation is 5, so I add 5, subtract 5. Approximately what percent of the students taking the test can be expected to score between 43 and 53? Well, fortunately, we've already labeled 43 and 53. And to give the percentage of those that scored within this interval, you can either add all these up, 15 plus 19.1 plus 19.1 plus 15, or you can just memorize that within 1 standard deviation, it's about 68%. Number 3, the mean amount of bottled water consumed by students each day was 153 bottles. Standard deviation is 22, so I went ahead and added 22 to get to the 1 standard deviation above and 2 standard deviations above, and I subtracted 22. Now the question is, what is the range of the number of bottled waters that approximately fall 68.2% of the students drink? Well, we know that that's going to be 68% is about 1 standard deviation, so it'll be this part of the bell curve, and we've already memorized this. It's about, this represents 68.2%, so there it is. So the range or the interval would be 131 to 175 bottles. Number 4, the normal distribution is the mean for the normal distribution is 200. Which score has the greatest probability of being chosen at random? Well, the greatest probability is the score that falls closest to the mean. So we're basically subtracting each of these from 200. And the number that has the smallest absolute value is this. So 176 is your answer. Saved and scribed number 1, because 82 falls 1 standard deviation below the mean, You just have to add 4 to get back to the mean. The answer is 86. Number 2, the mean for the verbal scores on an exam was 428, and the standard deviation was 113. So I added 113, subtracted 113 to get this spread of data. And approximately what percent of those taking this test had verbal scores between these two? Well, again, this is plus or minus 1 standard deviation, so we know the answer is 68%. Number 3, the mean is 10.5, and the standard deviation is 0.75. So I'm going to add 0.75, subtract 0.75, which interval represents the amount of juice dispensed about 68.2% of the time. Well, we know that's going to be 9.75 to 11.25. Last one, number 4. The normal distribution of scores, the mean is 63, and the standard deviation is 5. So I'm going to add 5, subtract 5. Which score is closest to the mean? That's going to be the one that's closest to the mean, which is 65. So there you go. It's a pretty easy lesson. Good luck to you.